Amanda, are you going to double check the sound?
Okay. Is it ready to go, Amanda? Okay, thank you. Today is Wednesday, September the 16th in the year 2020 at 6:30 p.m. I call this meeting to order and verify that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. As a reminder, tonight's board meeting is being shown via live stream on the West ISD YouTube channel at www.westisd.net. This time I'd ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Jason, followed by the prayer by Reverend John Crowder.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be together tonight. We thank you for the privilege of serving. Lord, we confess to you that in a time of confusion and chaos, that we've been reminded of our need for you. We've been reminded that we don't understand enough about the craziness around us and life in general. So we pray that you would give us wisdom, Lord, that you would help us to make the right decisions. Pray that you would bless our administrators with that same kind of wisdom and courage, that we would take the right steps at the right times. We ask you blessings on our district and our community. We ask you blessings on this meeting, that the things that are done and said here would be what's best for our students and would ultimately bring you glory. We pray for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
At this time, that brings us to the recognition portion of our agenda. We'll turn that over to Mr. Truitt. We have a privilege of getting to honor Trustee Lee Crawshaw tonight and her great accomplishment at our TASB leadership graduation. So take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Sparks. A little bit of superintendent's privilege here to recognize one of our own. As you guys know, Ms. Crawshaw has been traveling across the state for 5 different sessions as a member of Leadership TASB. And tonight, I wanted to make sure all of you knew that she had a kind of a COVID-related graduation ceremony where she traveled actually for an outdoor ceremony in a parking lot in Georgetown.
Well, it wound up being indoors.
Okay, all right. Good. I'm glad they let you go indoors.
Because it was 100 and some odd that day.
Oh, yeah, that would not have been good. But Ms. Crawshaw has had to present, watch webinars, attend trainings. She's seen some fabulous presentations from other members of Leadership TASB leadership, and also from districts where she's got to see a lot of best practices and even brought a lot of things back to me for consideration. But it's quite the honor. You can see there's only 900 in the state, or a little over 900, and so to have this honor, I just thought tonight we needed to cheer Lee on. So as you can see from the first sentence, she is now a master trustee, and we thank Leadership TASB for all their hard work and dedication to growing you guys to be the best board members you can be. So thank you for taking on that challenge, Ms. Crawshaw. We're proud of you, and we're ecstatic that you have this new honor and that it's someone from West, because I'm sure we were one of the smallest districts maybe as a part of this. They were smaller? Yay. All right. So what an honor. Congratulations, and congrats, graduate. Do we need to play Pomp and Circumstance so you can...
No, but I want to call out 2 others. We've had 2 other people from West do it.
Oh,
Crystal
I didn't know
Anthony
that.
did it, and yes, she's going to kill me. Misty Shulock did it. Yes,
Great.
Thank you.
So we've had 3.
We've had 3. And
Wonderful,
so, yeah,
wonderful.
it's
Well,
wonderful.
congratulations,
So, yeah.
Master Board Member.
Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Lee, for your dedication to the school and the kids to go the extra mile. Thank you very much. That brings us to the audience portion of our agenda. Has anyone signed up to speak? Okay, great. That then brings us to agenda item number 6, which is an action item, and that's the consent agenda. We've had the opportunity to look over it since the packet was delivered. I will take and call for a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented, with the exception of item 6B 2A, which was payment to Socorro Family Ford for $41,395.06. Is there a motion?
Just to clarify for the new ag vehicle, and I also wanted to make sure everyone knew, you saw my email that I've been on my own, and Ms. Moshik was gracious enough to help me get the packets together. There are no donations, student transfer requests, and the student enrollment report will be under item number 8, so you're not approving those 3 with this vote.
Motion's been made by Mike, seconded by Kenny. All those in favor, please show of hands of the motion. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 6B 2A is payment for Socorro Family Ford for $41,395.06. Again, Mr. Truitt had said that's for the ag truck, which I understand they're enjoying a great deal. Floor is now open for a motion to address this agenda item. Mike has made the motion. John, did you second that? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands. There's 6. And Kenny abstains. All right. Thank you so very much. We have the administrative report, campus reports. They are in your packet there. Agenda item number 8 is a report, and that's on the 2020-2021 back to school news and updates presented by Mr. Truitt.
Ms. Protka, can I ask you to do the one set of lights for me, please? One's right in front of the screen. We've got a few slides we wanted to use for this presentation as we asked the principals for some data and some information. So if you'll affix your eyes to the screen. Thank you, that's perfect. And Ms. Adams, you're gonna have to click. Yep, okay, all right. All right, slide 1, there you go. As I just mentioned, our student enrollment report, I wanted you to see where we stand on remote and on campus and our totals. As you can see right now, West Elementary 42 on remote learning, West Middle School 19, and West High School 34. Of course, none at Brookhaven for a total of 95. And then on campus or in-person instruction, we have 498 at the elementary, 233 at the middle school, and at the high school 405, and then all 40, of course, at Brookhaven for a total 1,176. And then you can see when you add both columns together, we're currently at 1,271 students. Already from last month, where I shared with you some figures, you can see we jumped up quite a bit. We know we've enrolled over 30 new students just since last Tuesday. Some are coming back that had originally said they were going to stay home. And a trend that I know Mrs. Adams will send when she comes up to do her slides, a number of our remote learners are returning to on campus as well. As a comparison, especially as we talk in October about some budget adjustments based on our enrollment figure, remember Mr. McKeska had budgeted 1,320 students, so you can see we're roughly off about 50 kids, but I know since I made this table, Amanda was telling me we enrolled 4 more just today, so that number really is 1,275. Last March, before our COVID suspension of on-campus instruction, West Elementary was at 581, the middle school was at 276, the high school was at 433, and then Brookhaven was at 41. And so you can see it's really the elementary and middle school that are the differences there. We know where many of the students are, and we hope they'll return at some point this year and definitely next year. Any questions about that enrollment slide that I can answer? Because I know you've asked about that a couple times. Yes, Ms. Crawshaw.
So I've heard that some districts are now taking kids back with just 24-hour notice. Have we thought about changing?
We're doing that. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Adams has put in a plan where they call Mr. Snook, who you guys know is over our remote instruction plan. and he listens to the reasons, and we're trying to get them back in as soon as possible if they're seeking reentry for on campus. Remember, we added the 3-week, but we're taking them now because they want to get back.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. On the scholastic calendar, I just wanted to go over a couple things because with the late start on September the 8th, we have many things that are coming fast. And so I just wanted to remind you of what's happening in September and into October before our next board meeting. First off, Progress Report 1-1 is on Friday, September 25th. And so we've got 3 weeks and boom, we have grades to go home, which is great for our parents to see how their kids are doing here at the start of the school year. In addition to that, Mrs. Adams has been working with the kids on iReady to have even some assessment data. And so we're doing our best to see where our kids are after the hiatus since March. Homecoming is Friday, October 2nd against Life Cliff, or Life Oak Cliff. Sorry, I did it out of order there. We'll have a homecoming report at the end of the agenda so you'll know what the festivities are this year and how COVID planning has halted or hurt some of the traditions, but we're doing our best to do all that we can for that game in that week. Friday, October 9th, as a reminder, this was, remember, a big discussion point back in July about having that break for fall that we've been adding the last 2 years. Still have it in the middle of the grading period, and you can see it's there on Friday the 9th. And when I'm out at the campuses, I know it's going to be a well-earned and deserved 3-day weekend when that date comes for the students and the staff. Friday, October 16th is our UIL 6 weeks grade check for no pass, no play. And so that's an important date for all of our different extracurriculars. And then Friday the 30th will already be at the end of a grading period, and we'll truly see how both plans are working and how the kids are progressing, and then any more tweaks that we need to make. So I wanted to point out those events because they're going to be here before we know it. Next slide. Just a review of our first week. I must say it was a great start. I'm so proud of our students and staff and parents with all the changes. They were embraced at a very high level. Everybody was very understanding, and the meme I put out there about our latest addition to the school supply list being Grace for Everyone has been well received in the sense that folks have been very understanding about all the different changes and notifications and requests, and just overall a new start versus the traditional starts we've had in the past. Most importantly on that bullet point, I'd like to point out how happy the kids have been, tired of course, but they've been thrilled to be back with their teachers and friends and in a place that's home to them. And so hearing their stories and hearing from the teachers how excited the kids were just made it all worth it. We've had, if you think about it, we've been back a week and a day, and it's been great. Many of the staff members would say, and they've even been sharing with me in email and face-to-face, that it's been their best start in their careers. Now, it's been tiring because of all they're being asked to do through the 2 different learning plans and all the requirements of the state, but they're in good spirits, and just the kids have made it all worth it. Arrival and dismissal couldn't be going any better. I know I shared with you in an email about the challenges of the first day, and it was like day 2, everything I had sent you was not true any longer. Arrival and dismissal at the elementary is going very well. We picked up the time on both. We were done with dismissal yesterday at a little before 3:20, and it was after 4 o'clock just a week ago. And so shaving off all that time has been amazing. The teachers and Mrs. Cosda, Mrs. Sexton, Mrs. Cook have just done an amazing job with thinking about the plan that was originally in place, just tweaking a few things. And now, of course, we're used to which kids ride in which cars, and it couldn't be going any better. At secondary campuses, the kids are doing a great job getting to class. The 7:15 time has been well received, and we have more kids at school at that time than we've ever had before. The breakfast on the go is going well at the secondary campuses. The dismissal time at secondary is working well. More kids are getting tutoring and intervention than I can remember since I've been here. The cafeteria team has done a phenomenal job, particularly at the elementary. That's what that bullet point is about, with the in-class breakfast and lunch. They are working so hard to make sure those meals are wheeled in and the trash is picked up, and then the teachers are ready to roll when announcements end. We have more kids eating than we've had before, and that's a good thing. The lunches are going well. The teachers are getting their breaks. The volunteers that are helping with the covering of the lunch periods, that plan is working great. We haven't had as many spills and things that we thought. Obviously, it's more challenging at pre-K and K, but the teachers have already shared with us that even if we didn't have to do this, they're loving this plan and would love to see it even in future years because of just, as you guys know, the struggles of our cafeteria there. And so that plan is working even better than we thought. The screenings and temperature checks are going well. Kids that have symptoms as they answer the questions or may have a fever, our plan is going well. We're getting them where they need to go. We're not having fevers in the sense that temperature check stations are a great gauge for how our kids feel as they get on the buses or coming into the buildings. The only situations we've had is where we've sent some kids home where they just weren't feeling well, and as you guys know, we're taking extra precautions there, and then even sending the siblings home as well. And so the parents are being very supportive of our efforts to be proactive on those situations. And just as a reminder, I know you've seen my emails and graphics I've put out. We've still only had the one positive case since school started, and notice the way I define that with the one high school student. And we've had many kids and staff go home with symptoms, and then they do the test, and we go through our protocols, and then they're returning to school when their time is right. And so our plan is working very well. The face masks have been well received. It's challenging all day, obviously. Kids have learned to bring several to switch out because they get sweaty or moist or smelly, whatever. After lunch type thing. They have one for the morning, one for the afternoon. They have different styles. They all have the ones they like. The staff is adapted as well. Even in the younger grades where it's not required, we have students wearing the masks. They're wearing them on the buses, and so that's going well. The substitutes I added to this slide because both principals have just raved about our plan to do the permanent subs this year as staff members, and so I wanted to give you some feedback on how well that's going. The extra hands, and then if we've had to send someone home, we've just been able to plug a teacher in that knows the campus, knows the kids, knows our plan, and can just immediately keep instruction going. And we hired 6 fabulous subs, and I know Ms. Crawshaw had asked me, I need to send that to you so you know who we hired. They're all doing a fantastic job. The PPE materials has been a struggle to keep up with the wipes, and we're getting short on masks for students. For example, we have kids that maybe forgot their mask on their island at home, and so we've been providing them. If you just do a dozen a day at one grade level, you can imagine how many that is across the campuses. And so we know we're going to have to get more masks and more wipes. We're trying to impress upon our staff with the towels and the spray disinfectant that we have is probably the better way to go, but the wipes are still the preference. And so elementary had it on their school supply list, so they have an overwhelming, they have quite the stockpile. So it's really secondary that we've got to get more PPE materials in for. Everything else is working okay. The dividers we bought for the desks, I thought they'd be utilized more, and with the masks and things and with the social distancing, they're not being used at the level I thought they would be, which I think is interesting. Just teachers are figuring out other ways. And on the notifications, that's working well. We're getting good feedback on our communication, especially with the staff. You can see those emails if you log in to your West ISD email, because I send them to all, just giving updates as they come up. Usually it's Sunday night or Monday morning. I try to do a week at a time. Of course, if it's an emergency with a positive case, it would go out immediately, but we haven't had that. So it's just updates on suspected cases and testing and who's out. All right, my next slide will give you kind of an overview of the campuses and some feedback. I asked Mr. Clander and Mrs. Cosda to kind of tell us how it's going with the plan. It didn't mean I was leaving out Ms. Sukup, but she has such a different plan going with her kids since they live at the ranch full time, that really the plan is about the teachers and the workers that come to them. But she's rocking her normal schedule and is able to do more with her kids than we're able to on our campuses even. You can see that Ms. Cosda added about arrival and dismissal like I did, so we both had that one down. She also had the positivity from the students and staff, parents, about our new guidelines, and I, of course, had that one down. The lesson planning template would probably be on the concern slide here in a minute, but also on the positive slide here, because it's doing amazing things for the created and taught lessons we're doing, but it's a lot of work. And so I know Mrs. Adams is going to mention that in detail here in a minute. She praised the horizontal and vertical problem solving that the teachers are having to do across the campus, just because everything's new and different. And even though I lament the enrollment number at the elementary, the teachers love it because their class sizes are amazing and they're able to do more with less furniture in the small rooms. And going around and seeing 15, 16 kids in the rooms, I mean, you guys have heard me say it, I wish we could do that even outside of the COVID years, because it's better for kids and better for our staff and learning. And so we're seeing great benefits to the class sizes. At middle school, high school, the student entry piece, I mentioned that as well. Mr. Clander mentioned how well the students are doing that and getting the screenings done. And for him, he has double the entrances than Mrs. Cosda does. The transitions throughout the day are going well with the up and down staircases, kids wearing their masks in the hallways, and really just the kids giving each other grace and being respectful. No running and watching out for each other and keeping their distance. Dismissal at the end of the day, he's doing it just like Ms. Cosda is from the classroom, and his is actually better than in the years when we just do the mass dismissal at the end of the day. So this is another thing we'll probably continue to do even without the COVID planning. And so he's dismissing to the buses and car lines and by grade level and groups, and that's going very well. He also mentioned the screening process like I did, and then he also mentioned how great the planning and preparation time, especially the 15 red days, which we fell in love with, and the later start. And so those are probably things we'll consider outside of a COVID year as well. Next slide, Amanda. You probably saw my graphics. These have been very well received, and after putting out the one about the case data and how we're tracking it so they can see how we're doing, it receives so many likes and shares that this is something I'm going to do now every week, because I think this is great information for our community to see, good transparency on our part about how the plan's working. I was asked to add a column about suspected, and so I'll do that. And so next Monday we'll have 5 columns there off to the side from the campuses, and it was great to be able to report that we had no active lab confirmed cases from staff or students. And so seeing those zeros, I hope our parents are able to see we're doing very well with our safety and health plan. And so I'll keep putting that out. It's a great graphic for everybody to see. And then on the left side, I got really good feedback on our return to learn safety tips that Tank to Trojan helped me with. And so these are just examples of things that we're trying to do to make sure everybody's aware of our return to learn and return to play plans. Next slide. Challenges from the first week. This is my slide, and then I've got one again from Mrs. Cosda and Mr. Clander. Just making sure the home screenings and temperature checks are done, and more so for events than coming to school. our parents are doing a phenomenal job of remembering coming to school, but then there's other things on the weekends and at night that we've got to remember. It's not just when you go into a building, you know, at 7:15 in the morning. It's anytime you come on our property that we've got to make sure you're feeling okay and have your mask and social distancing and taking care of yourself through the screeners. The fans at the athletic events, I've gotten several calls. I'm going to need to send out an update tomorrow for Friday night, especially. We have a news station coming. If we don't take care of our fan mask wearing, it'll be taken care of for us, whether it's through an ordinance of some sort locally or through the county, because that's what we're hearing. It's not that our fans are just being obstinate. It's a misunderstanding between the difference of being in the gym for volleyball and outside for a football game. I went to the game last night against La Vega, which we swept, by the way, whoop, and we had some fans in there just with the mask down on their chin or their neck. That can't happen. When they're in the building for anything, they must be wearing a mask. And so that'll be my first reminder is it doesn't matter if you're social distanced. What kicks in the mask being worn is you're in the building. So it doesn't have to do with skipping rows or being rows away from another fan. If you're in the building, you must have a mask on. But then outside, because of what they read and know when they're in Waco and such, when you're outdoors, they think no mask. That's not the case either. And we may, again, get a mandate that it doesn't matter if you're social distancing, you're going to wear a mask. But the way it reads is if you are in close contact when you enter or exit or in the stands, you must have your mask on. Well, if you think about it, in the stands, that's hard to avoid close contact. Going up and down the ramps, even in the stands, even with the skipping rows and trying to space out, if you're not with your home group or your household or with the folks you traveled with, your family members, you have to have a mask on. And so in our student section, for example, they think, oh, we're outside, we don't need to. Well, no, it's no different than if you're in the building. If you're standing with a pack of 67 fellow seniors, you're not all in the same household and you're not in a traveling group, you have to wear a mask. And so we've got to work on that, or again, it'll be taken care of for us, which is mandatory mask wearing or no fans in the stands, which I would hate for our kids in our community. Close contact investigations are challenging. We, of course, have assigned seating and seating charts for all classrooms at all grade levels, so we know if a case or a suspected case is reported, we can go see who they were around and what they were doing. It just takes a lot of time, is my point for that bullet point, is we've got to dedicate many staff and many folks, and the kids do their best to tell us, oh, I was here, and then I was by so-and-so, and I think I had my mask down, you know, so we're working through that. But that's going to be a challenge all year long, especially with the little kids at the elementary, making sure we know all of their points of contact to make sure that we're following our protocols. Our health expert advice is interesting. You can call someone at the county, somebody at TEA, somebody at CDC, someone locally, and you're going to get a different answer for everything. So I've told Nurse Tabola, just call the health authority in Waco. We've got our contact person. We're going to ask her every time for advice and tell her our situation, and we're going to go with what that lady tells us. And that way we're consistent, and that way we've got open communication, and that way everybody knows that we're following the same protocol for every call. And so that's working for us so far. Transportation has been a challenge just because of the number of kids still on the buses. You heard me say back in August that I thought parents would choose maybe to try a different route than a school bus. And so our 2 student per bus seat guideline has hit some snags where we've got some 3s on a couple of routes. So we're going to have to work through that. I will say the parents are coming to the stops as required for grade 6 and below, and the students are wearing their masks. And so those things are working swimmingly, but the buses are overcrowded on a few routes, and we've got to figure that out. The last one, We did this late at the request of Child Nutrition that was in the Return to Learn plan about not exchanging money like some restaurants are doing and change in the food lines. But word's not out enough, and so we've had some kids struggling to pay meals and eat and do some other things if they're planning on doing it at school, because we're trying to do it all online and electronically where it's charged. It's not that the My School Bucks isn't working, it's getting the money into their accounts in a timely manner, because they're taking it to the office, who then has to get it to Child Nutrition, and then it has to be loaded into their accounts. And the irony is now 3 different people have touched the money, and we were trying not to touch the money. And then getting it in time for lunch has been a struggle. And so we're working through that and communicating that better. I had it as the first bullet point in my Trojan tidbits this week, so hopefully we can get that rolling better.
Is it being done online?
Yes, ma'am. It's on our website.
But cash is still coming into the school?
Yes, ma'am. Where they say, can you put this in my account?
Okay,
And we are.
The kids are doing that?
Yes, ma'am. They bring it like in an envelope or drop cash by, and then we try to take care of it for them. Obviously, the best way to do it is take care of it through a credit card type situation at home at night. But again, that takes time. That's a totally new system for us because we're used to taking cash and change on a per meal basis.
Right. There's a charge to use your credit card, and so that's an additional expense for the parents.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So that's like,
Yeah, it's worth it. And if you put enough, then you do it one time. That's what we try to do for Brian. Yes. Yeah. That's the trade-off, because we don't pay for the license to My School Bucks or the new ticketing system through Hometown Ticketing. What pays for that is the service fee, and we don't get the service fees. I don't want y'all to think we're getting your $250. It's what pays for the software. Yeah, yeah.
right.
No, and the ones that can are probably free and reduced, so remember that too. So, yeah. Go ahead, Kenny, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if you're going to make that big of a shift in a plan, we should have had that a part of the discussion back in July. That was done like the week before when, again, we were asked by the staff. They were worried about handling the money, and we were trying to support them as well, but it's created some new challenges. Yes, love to. Tank loves to be in my promotions. That'd be great. All right, next slide, please. This is the struggles. West Elementary mentioned just learning Schoology. Remember, it was used only at the secondary campuses in the past. And so total new system for them to learn, for loading their work, for remote instruction. We've had some technology challenges because we're using so much. A lot of things needing to be used for remote instruction, especially the document cams and such, just having it all working the way the teachers need it at the moment they need it. And so we've had to do a lot of work on that over the last week. Remote attendance is a huge struggle. You know, when we talk about just the learning and instruction side of it, the whole attendance tracking is turned into a big challenge because of what the teachers have to do on a daily basis and then a weekly basis to record attendance. And if it's not done correctly, remember it's tied to our funding, and so we're having to email and remind, and it's still a big learning curve. And so that one is definitely been a new one for us. The teacher workload will be on both campuses because, you know, until you're teaching and have the kids in your room, it's easy to plan and talk about doing remote and on campus. But guys, I can't stress enough, we're asking a lot of our staff. And despite them being upbeat and excited about the kids, it's the opposite extreme of all the things that they have to do to meet the state's regulations for these plans. And so anything we can do for grace and empathy and compassion and to take anything off, we're trying to do on a daily basis. Yep. Yes, we have. Ms. Costa met with, for example, every grade level today, just for 1 week to see where we are. And so that's just one example. Ms. Adams has done the same by going around. Some of it we can't change is the problem. Some of it is mandates for attendance and tracking and remote instruction. And a lot of it, remember, is a part of our Race to an A plan, which has compounded some things because we committed to that. And so it's just a lot at once. But the biggest thing is, for example, the elementary, I'll use them. They've had to learn Schoology, iReady, Seesaw, a new lesson plan template, which are big initiatives all here at the start of this year. And so that's just one example. Secondary had a head start on Schoology, but not at the level the state's requiring us to use it for tracking of remote instruction. And so,
And then
yeah.
there's the you're used to teaching the kids where we're giving material and hands-on, and instead you're not really teaching the kids, you're providing information for the parents to be taught. So it's a whole nother dynamic
Yes.
of that kind of stuff. And
Yes.
I mean, I struggle with it, and I've been doing it for multiple years.
It
but
absolutely
still,
is, right.
Yeah.
The next bullet point up there from Mrs. Cosda is what we have talked about previously about just where the kids are and why this iReady data and checking to see what the hiatus since March, where our kids are. And then you can see how she worded that, where students are struggling due to 6 minutes off versus would have been struggling without 6 months off, and just making sure we're meeting their needs. And that's helping with the class size and the intervention pieces and starting at 7:15 and just making sure our teachers are on that data early so that we can respond now. At the middle high school, just consistency with the policy. I mentioned that with the health authority, and then knowing when to clean and do the close contact investigations. Chuck mentioned closing gaps, which is the same as Carrie's there on the last bullet point about where the kids are. Teacher workload, remote student engagement is one that Mr. Klander has mentioned to me several times, is that they're attendance-wise, they're getting on, but they're not completing the work. And so I know it's only been a week, but some of them are already behind. And so we're calling, we're checking, we're emailing, we're doing all the different things we know they're on it, just trying to see what we can do to help get them to progress through the assignments. And then complacency about thinking, and you see this in the news and in the community and online, just about, hey, I saw, for example, a report today that the numbers are going down in COVID cases. I got an email from Baylor for Connor that it went from 6-something to 2-something. And so when you start seeing that, you're like, okay, well, we don't need to wear a mask, and we got to keep going. We got to keep our plan moving forward, and we got to make sure both the return to learn and return to play plans are being followed to a T, and so that we don't have any setbacks. And so he mentioned that one. Next bullet point. I put this up here. I had this in, if you'll remember, in the July and August presentations. I just circled those two areas because this is our flow chart when dealing with individuals, and if they have symptoms, or whether it's on or off campus. These are the two struggles for us. Individuals with symptoms that come to the campus from home, which is what's happening, where someone in their home is a positive case, but then the kid comes to school or an event where our parents have to remember that there's COVID in their home with a lab-confirmed case, which means the kids cannot come to school or an event. And so that's been the challenge to date. And then you go over to that fourth kind of column. Again, when we have something happen, the follow through from the public health work and us, or the officials, and us working together to identify the next steps. What I've learned, and you've probably seen this on social media, is every district is responding to suspected and positive cases differently, especially extracurriculars. And so we must do what the protocols say. We can't worry about what somebody's doing next door. We need to follow the plan. And so that's why we'll keep calling and verifying and checking and making sure that we're doing all the things we're doing. I can assure you, and I mean this as a compliment, that from the webinars and things I get on, we are doing at the same or more than the other districts. So I'm very pleased with our plan and where we are to date. And the 0 positive cases on the slide 3 slides ago shows that our work has not been in vain. All right, next slide. All right, we're going to shift to Amanda. I asked her to share a couple slides about how remote instruction's going in particular. I know she's going to share some on-campus stuff, especially what Holly was asking about teacher workload, and so she's definitely the one that's been asking the most, so she can kind of share where we are. Hold on.
Okay, that's always a win when that works. Okay, so I wanted to focus on a couple of things just in general before we have to move forward with our Race to an A plan for what's best for our students. So the 2020 and 21 school year is phase 2. So I put this in the admin report, but wanted to hit on the 3 biggest things that change in phase 2 or are solidified are lesson planning, and that is always a favorite topic of everyone, as you can imagine, but it is a very specific plan that's in the ESF template that we're following, and we've done our best to give grace and just support the teachers in this, because we kind of went from 0 to 100, and we provided a lot of training and an easier way to turn those in, and we just need to continue to support them because this is a huge change. But as you saw in the WS slide, it is going to change instruction and impact it in a way that nothing else can, because planning ahead is what leads to good instruction. And so as the teachers get more and more used to that, you're going to see it impact what's happening in the classrooms. When we look at PLTs, we have been doing PLTs. However, we've done this very well at elementary for the last 2 years. We started a very specific process at middle school last year, but phase 2 says now everybody is doing this process. And so that is phase 2. We'll work a lot on that this school year. Elementary is ready for the team leads to take that over. So Ms. Detlefson and I support Ms. Costa and her team, but as we move through the year, we've taught them the process and they'll take it over, which is the intent of a PLT. And then we are kind of at the midpoint with middle high, where we still go and help Mr. Planner and his team as they learn that process. And the other big one is progress monitoring, specifically making students more responsible for their own progress. And so you guys have seen that we've done some of that, but there is a portion of the ESF plan where it talks about consistently a student knowing how they're doing and being able to express that, as well as there being visual reminders in the classrooms and in the halls. And so those are the big ESF pieces this year that you'll see really become solid as we move forward. We are not behind on phases. We took everything that was supposed to be done in March, May, got all of that included, and moving forward to phase 2. And so we are on track to still, be on the same timeline that we were. I also wanted to mention Red Days because I'm so thankful for those extra days that we had. They gave us time to prepare our faculty for remote instruction, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about successes and challenges, but I don't know what we would have done without that for our faculty. I heard horror stories from other districts, so I thank everyone who was involved in making that happen, because I couldn't imagine doing that to our staff, training them one day and saying go the next day. So I'm very thankful for those extra days. They they also allowed our faculty time in their rooms to prepare for their on-campus learners in a way they haven't been able to do in the past. So we're just super thankful for those days. I want to talk specifically about remote instruction. The numbers that Mr. Trick gave you were accurate until this afternoon. Now we're down to 92 remote learners. However, that fluctuates 4 or 5 every day, but we are on a downward trend. I think the last time we spoke, we were well over 120, right at 120 maybe. And so what's happening is we're not losing those kids. They're coming back on campus. And for a variety of reasons. And like Mr. Tripp mentioned earlier, Mr. Snick and I have talked, as well as I've talked to each campus principal, and there, to this time, we have not denied reentry into the campus because we all want our kids back. And if they are struggling, we do not want them to go into truancy. And so we have accepted them back with open arms. We feel like that is going to taper off after the first couple weeks because people are deciding, is this good for me and my family or not? And so we feel like there'll be less fluctuation in the coming weeks. But our accomplishments for remote instruction are that for our remote instruction for the first 5 days, I had Ms. Detlefson figure this, and we're at a little over 96% attendance rate. And I dare to say that I don't know that every school can say that. And so I think that's a huge win. It's pretty consistent amongst all campuses. And so having them engaged at a high level is a different thing. However, they are participating in the number of minutes they have to have. And so, for the most part, that has been a very good feel for us. We're excited about that number. Now we would love for it to be 9,900, so we'll keep working on that. We have had minimal, I will say, glitches in Schoology. The implementation process, the whole planning piece that everybody put in ahead of time, the admin team, the T&L team, the teachers, it paid off big time. I'm not telling you it's not a time-consuming event. It is, but they know how to do it. And that was our big goal, is everybody feels comfortable with how to use Schoology. Everybody can learn more about it, but for a basic knowledge, we feel very good about at least people know who to go to for help if they need help, and or they know everything they need to know to be successful about getting things into their program. And so that was a win for us. A big accomplishment is the teamwork and effort. I can't say enough about our teachers, and honestly, every member of our faculty and staff is impacted by the remote instruction in many ways, no matter what your job title is. And I cannot say enough about the effort that we're seeing and the team spirit. And so that's very, very good. I would last like to say a big accomplishment, and one I really did lose sleep over, is communication, because there are a lot of cogs in this. And so the student learning coach, familial communication with our teachers and our admin team has been phenomenal. Mr. Snook has done a great job being the liaison, and he then farms out what he needs to for help. That has worked very well. We talk many, many times a day. And so I want to just, again, say that I feel like that has been a huge win and something that could have gone very differently. And so we will keep that effort up. Now, of course, we have challenges. Never want to sugarcoat that. We have some technology challenges, and that comes to do with very many things. It has a lot to do with every one of us has a different comfortability with technology, and or there may just be something that's not working. So what we've done, worked with the IT team, the Brandon's team, and Francis, and we have prioritized student issues. So if we get a call or an email that says a student can't blah, that is always going to take priority, because we don't want someone not able to learn that day. So that's the first thing we do. And then for everything else, we're trying to work around a 24-hour turnaround. If your document camera is broken, we're going to try to get there and not have that be a barrier for you. But that's going well. There have been some things. We had a couple of things with Google Meet. We got that turned around. We had a couple of things with some Chromebooks. We got that turned around. So there have been some things. I never want to ignore those. However, we are all working really hard to make sure that our students and our teachers are able to use the technology as things become more familiar, they just become more familiar and more comfortable. So hopefully with time and with some adjustments, our teachers' workload will not feel so heavy, because it is a huge caseload to have on campus and remote. And I thank all of our educators for what they're doing for that.
All right. Do y'all have any individual questions about our return to learn or return to play plan, or something you've read or heard or saw even in another district that we can address? I mean, Holly nailed it earlier when she was saying about how we broached it with the different folks, and it's looked differently from individual conversations to departments to grade levels to meeting with every team. And so and also I can't stress enough that every situation is different, and so we're trying our best to listen and respond. Formal survey wise, we plan to do one at 3 and 6 and 9, but it couldn't wait till 3 weeks, so after 1 week we needed to regroup. So I'm trying to be as present as I can be at the elementary in particular. I've been there just about every morning except today to help with arrival, and then seeing the teachers and trying to get by the secondary more, just so they know we're here to help and listen. So as I hear things, I'll keep you updated in an email. All right. That was that agenda item, Dr. Sparks. Ready for number 9.
Very good. Agenda item number 9 is an action item. It's the consideration and possible action by the board to approve the update to the 2020-2021 West ISD Student Code of Dress. Special note on this update centers on the code's language involving hair length of male students. Mr. Truitt.
This is highly unusual to bring you an update to a dress code after school starts, but if you were able to read all the different documents I included in your packet, which is why it's so thick tonight, is because of this one section in particular, I think you can see why this needed to be brought to your attention. I'm not even sure, since this is an action item, where you feel and if there's even 4 yes votes, but I wanted to present the case from the ACLU and what Joey Moore is recommending and where I stand on this, and we'll see where this goes. If you read the letter at the front, you know that approximately 500, it was 477 districts where the ACLU literally searched the dress codes that are posted. And then, of course, West received a letter, because we're one of them, if we had a policy about hair length on males. And you probably saw then in the article in the letter that this has to do with the Barbers Hill ISD case involving hair length policy and an ongoing lawsuit. But the court has already said that there's the likelihood that the plaintiff will prevail. And so when that happens, attorneys in districts start seeing information come out that Mrs. Moore, like Mrs. Moore shared in the memo, that we need to consider now, since school has started, moving forward, that here's what's coming, is that any male hair length policy will be viewed as discriminatory. And so why I went ahead and put it on tonight's agenda rather than waiting for a TASB update is just to say, I know we have 5 males right now in our high school that have a length past their collar. I know we've had, Mr. Klander has shared that 1 or more of those parents have called us because they saw this in the Waco Trib, saying, what's our stance? Well, our stance is we know it's going to be discriminatory, so when Mrs. Moore says in the 4th paragraph that her opinion is that we cannot articulate a legitimate reason for the difference, we need to go ahead and take a look at this. And she even makes the argument in the last paragraph is we can keep our policy where it is and just know, though, that time and money will come into play the minute someone challenges this policy, because it will be found discriminatory. And so I showed you what the sample policy would look like 2 pages after Mrs. Moore's email that I made into a memo, that all we would do is strike under hair and grooming the hair longer than the shirt collar on male students. that the manner to cover the eyes is still in there, and that's fine for safety reasons. But it's my recommendation,
And it says
believe it or not,
And
that we
it's-
remove
and it's
this.
sex neutral.
Yes.
By saying not in the eyes, not that's sex neutral.
Yes.
We can
Yes.
do that.
Which part? Oh, you're fine. Which part, John? Oh, just then, I was saying it would be my recommendation to adopt Mrs. Moore's recommendation that we strike it. And here's why. The minute it's contested, we will lose. And time and money to go through the process of representation and legal briefs and opinions, and even if it goes to court, when we know that we've got to remove that from our code, why would we? I know it's a different way to think about hair length on males in West schools. It's something being done all over America in schools. We can look at safety if there's issues, and like Ms. Crawshaw was saying with the covering the eyes and things, but it's a non-starter and a non-issue for me. And so tonight I would seek your recommendation to strike that line from our code, and let's get in line and ahead of the Barber Seal case. But of course, I'll take questions, and of course, it has to be, a motion has to be made, and we have to have 4 votes. 4 yes votes, I'm sorry. Should have worded it that way.
Also, have to look at too, is that if we're doing remote instruction, they're still in school, but they're in remote school. Are we gonna carry that out because they are responsible for the dress code, even though kids are in remote environments?
That is actually, that's true. Yeah. Very hard to manage, but she's correct. They are our students. I think, the code would say while on school property or in our school buildings, but the kids still do come for things. I mean, we have pictures on Thursday they're coming for, so you're correct.
We
I
also
agree.
had a male who walked last year, graduation, with his hair down. And policy that we had to carry through that because technically he should not have been allowed to walk with his hair. Teacher was taught. So, we're gonna do it, we need to do it. If not, let's just get rid of it. And still, he was on, he was doing his school activities.
Well, we could have not let him walk, but I wasn't about to do that for his senior graduation.
I think this is a distraction we just don't need to take and even spend any time on. I mean, we just need to get in line with what the ACLU says that we need to do, and TEA, and just
And
be
it doesn't impact many students.
I don't think
but
there's going to be
it's-
that many kids that are going to be,
Mr. Garrick had his hands up. How can I answer? There is no limit. Now, of course, we always have the distraction clause, safety clause, but I don't see that being that. So you're correct.
Any more discussion before I call for a motion? If not, I will call for a motion to address agenda item number 9, which is the update on the school's language involving the hair length. Motion's been made by Lee. Is there a second? John Crowder seconds it. All those in favor, please show of hands. All those opposed, same sign. I think it was 7-0.
Nope.
Mike's opposed? Oh, okay. Sorry, Mike. 6-1. Agenda item, do you have all that ready to go on? Okay. Agenda item number 10 is an action item. It's consideration of possible action by the board to approve the interlocal purchasing method for fine arts supplies and equipment, athletic supplies and equipment, food service supplies and equipment, maintenance supplies and equipment, custodial supplies and equipment, ground supplies and equipment, science lab supplies and equipment, technology supplies and equipment, and district furniture for the 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Truitt will present that to us.
This is an annual action item, just so we can get the interlocal purchasing method out there for everything that we're purchasing through our new budget. So I wanted to have that on tonight's agenda so Mrs. Masha could get some of this stuff done.
Very good. Any questions? Something routine that we've done in the past. No questions. The floor is open for a motion to address agenda item number 10. Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Holly. All those in favor, please show of hands. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 11 is an action item, consideration and possible action by the board to approve the 2020-2021 School Health Advisory Council, known as SHAC, the membership roster. Mr. Truitt.
This again is an annual action item where we ask you to approve our SHAC council. I do need to make one change and ask for a volunteer. Ms. Willis has asked to step down from the committee, but we'll do it again in the future, so that means we need a board rep, and Dr. Crowder is our clergy rep, so I need one of the other 5 to help me with this. It's 5 meetings. They're Zoomed this year. It's in the evening, and so I'm asking for 5 nights, but we've got to have a board representative by state requirement. And it can't be John, and Holly can't do it either.
Any volunteers?
Thank
Lee?
you.
Okay.
All right. So on your list there, mark out Holly, add Lee, and then I'm seeking your approval of this list then with that one change for this school year for SHAC.
Floor is open for a motion to approve the list as presented with the alteration. Mike's made the motion. I see Jason seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands. 7-4. Agenda item number 12 is an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to approve Ms. Jana Protka as the West ISD attendance officer per West ISD board policy, FED legal. Mr. Truitt.
You've done this one other time, and we had listed Corey Beckham, and now since he's not with the district, we're designating Jana Protka as our at-risk coordinator, who has these attendance duties to be our court liaison with Judge Priya. So she's aware of this, and so tonight I'm seeking your approval to name her, because you have to put a name in the way policy states. So tonight I'm seeking your approval of Jana Protka to be named the attendance officer for the district.
Great. Okay. Any questions, Mr. Truitt, before I call for a motion? If not, the floor is open for a motion to address action item number 12. Mike's made the motion. It's been seconded by Lee Crawshaw. All those in favor, please show of hands. Very good, 7-0. Okay. Agenda item number 13 is also an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to approve the Texas Association of School Boards, also known as TASB, their board policy reference manual 115. The revised local policies include BDF, BF, DED, DMD, DIA, EI, FB, FD, FED, FFG, FFH, FMF, FNG, and GF. Please note that Update 115 focuses on updating and reorganizing several policies in the FFE series addressing student welfare. FFEA continues to focus on counseling, and a new code, FFEB, focuses on mental health provisions. Several policies have also been revised to incorporate the new Title IX regulations effective August the 14th of 2020, which define sexual harassment under Title IX and establish detailed procedures for how districts must respond to notice of allegations of sexual harassment. This will be presented by Mr. Truitt.
Last month, as you know, we did our first reading and spent considerable time going over every part of these policy changes in Update Manual 115. I gave you the vantage points in your document just to refresh your memories of all the things we talked about. So if there are no questions tonight, I'm seeking your approval of TASB Policy Update 115.
You have the opportunity to look that over. Any questions before I call for a motion? If there are no questions, the floor is open for a motion to address agenda item number 13 as presented. Kenny's made the motion. Is there a second? John Crowder seconds it. All those in favor, please show of hands. Second. Okay. Agenda item number 14 is also an action item. It's consideration of possible action by the board to approve Miss Amanda Adams as the West ISD Title IX Coordinator per West ISD Board Policy DIA, FB, and FFH, local and exhibits. Mr. Truitt.
This is already a change from Update Policy Manual 115 because we had sent in my name, and then we were told in the new Title IX trainings that the superintendent cannot be the Title IX coordinator because I have to hear the appeals. And so we have to name someone else to be the coordinator to do the initial investigations and hearings. And so Mrs. Adams would do a great job in that role. And so tonight I'm seeking your approval to name Amanda Adams as our Title IX coordinator for those listed policies.
Any follow-up questions from Mr. Truitt? His presentation? If not, the floor is open for a motion to address agenda item number 14 that's just presented by Mr. Truitt. Okay, Holly made the motion, second by Lee Crawshaw. All those in favor, please show of hands. 7-0. Agenda item number 15 is an action item. It's the consideration and possible action by the board to approve the public property finance contract between BBVA USA and West ISD for grades 6 through 12 student Chromebooks. Mr. Truitt will tell us about that.
All right, in your packet, in addition to the big chunk of pages about the dress code and the ACLU note, there's all the different documents from BBVA, our bank that's assisting us with this purchase. I'm going to have two presenters help me with this because I wanted Mrs. Adams to remind you of our Chromebook initiative at grades 6 through 12, and then I'm going to have Joanna share details about the contract and help me answer the questions from the folks we've been meeting with online to get everything lined out for this purchase. So I'm going to have Amanda come up first to just remind you of this initiative, and then we'll have Joanna talk about the contract pieces.
Thank you, Mr. Truitt. This initiative is to provide a device to each student in grades 6 through 12. We have decided to go with Dell, which has provided our devices for quite some time. The Chromebook 3100 is a Chromebook that is designed for education, and so we chose it because of its durability. It also has a webcam, which is very important for the situation of remote learning, and it has a long battery life, up to 14 hours, which are all very important things if you're going to be using it all day long. We have would seek to purchase 800 of those, which gives us a few extra in case one's lost, stolen, broken, any of those things. We are not waiting a long time to get a student what we feel is an instructional material in the future, as well as we will have each student and parent sign an acceptable use policy that we did have our attorneys read and contribute to. So those are available. So as soon as the Chromebooks are here with us, we will distribute those compacts, and then we will use our Skyward system in order to inventory those and have a checkout system based on the serial number, so we know exactly where each one is. Are there any questions I can answer on the actual device? Okay.
Thank you.
So the contract better between BBVA and us, it's $500,000, the $20,000 and $232,000 are the Chromebooks. So we're only looking at $252,000. However, we can add additional items like PPE materials, a lot of the things that we've been purchasing before school started and after school started when we realized that we needed a few other items. It is a broader range. They use computers as a placeholder because they knew that was going to be the bulk of the purchases. So it's pretty straightforward. Don't see anything wrong with it. It's 1.66% over 5 years. You know, I'm not sure.
The contract says you can't. Finance contract is not prepayable prior to maturity date.
Why?
Yeah,
That's
why?
a good question. One I'm not familiar with, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I could find out though.
It's probably just a bank stipulation for them to
Sure.
get a little bit more interest. It would be my feeling on that. So, but I would like to know. It's possible.
Sure.
And if possible, to strike that from the contract. Because we do come into some funds so we can pay it off early.
Oh, so far it's $252,000 for the Chromebooks. That's like the purchase order that we have right now. That's what we got the quote from for Dell. But we've also been spending money on PPE supplies. Let's see if they got wands that they use for the UV ray lights over the labs and masks and just the normal PPE purchases. That's correct, yes. That's correct.
Those are additional Chromebooks that we're looking at for elementary and teacher usage because the technology lending grant came out after the fact. And so we upped it all we could along with the hotspots, but it wouldn't nearly cover what we were hoping to do with this one-to-one initiative. So we did what we could. She's talking about two different things. The state did the technology lending grant to help get technology in the hands of kids, and so we could submit a number based on our free and reduced lunch list for hotspots and laptops, and the state would match the funds, and so we did our best to max that. But all of our kids aren't free and reduced lunch kids, and so we had to have a plan for the others. And so that's why we went ahead and did this amount and took advantage of both. And we're not about to send back because of the shortages of Chromebooks across really the globe. We already had our order in and we weren't about to reduce it. So we'll take them all on and of course disperse them where they're needed. And so we just went for both. But you had another part of your question. The CARES Act, they'll give us back 3/4 or 2/3? 3/4. 3/4 of anything we spend that's PPE related and those things. And so we should get it back. The problem is when, because we pay the bills now, so we could get reimbursed for that. And so I'd be reluctant to take PPE materials out of a loan. The whole reason we did the loan, Kenny, was strictly for the one-to-one Chromebook initiative. But to get the rate we wanted to is why it's a larger amount. And we just won't use it. It'll sit. Well, we would. And that's actually, it's funny you mentioned that. That is our plan, especially with the insurance piece that you guys all know about.
Yeah, over 5 years, it's $4,150.
Well, the pay down, you're talking about, all right, when you say use fund balance, that means we would pay down our 3 months operating costs because y'all know that's what we've got in fund balance. I think you're talking about additional funds. we cannot touch the insurance proceeds until our FEMA piece is complete. So I hope to tackle that, as I've told y'all, as the next piece of the puzzle with some recent events, because we could use it for that, but not by October, which is when we need the Chromebooks. So in order to get the Chromebooks in the hands of the kids for instruction this year, we were willing to pay the $4,000 that Dr. Sparks just mentioned. And we do not have it in our annual budget. That's not happening for this particular agreement that Mr. McKeska put together. We would have to start over with the process, which we can do. We're hoping. I mean, that's what it still says in our, when you look online, that's what it's still showing as our delivery date. But I've heard other districts have been pushed to December, but ours still says October.
Yeah, I agree with Holly. We don't need to throw out the baby with the bathwater to delay this for 1.6%. My only thing would be is we could take and get them to drop that we could pay it off early if we need to or can.
We can ask. This was,
All you can do is ask.
yeah. I think what you see on my face is this was already arranged and we were just presenting it tonight. I don't have all those answers because I think y'all know. So I'm trying here. So we can wait till October. No, when we sign the agreement, it's what's in writing.
Pardon? No, to me it's not a deal breaker. It's just something I'm curious about. So.
Well, I do know it was 3 years and extended to 5, but I'd have to ask the person why. So I'm standing before you. I don't know the answer to that. I can't answer that. There's one person that can answer that.
Okay. That's what I understand. Vote on it, get it to the kids and stuff, and then if they're amenable, if we can amend it and stuff, just do it after the fall. If not, I mean, $4,150 is not a whole lot of money over 5 years.
That was his plan. You know what? Let's table this. Let's take no action on this. We're going to do no action. That's my recommendation. Yep. Yep. We're taking no action. Yeah, we're gonna pass on this. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know, Miss Willis, but I don't feel good about this. So this wasn't. So yeah. Well, we don't know that. No, my recommendation is no action.
Okay.
Let's just take no action.
And then you'll follow up that with this, and if we need to, we can have a special call meeting.
We'll see.
So just one item if we need to.
We'll see.
Okay, we'll table that item or take no action on that item, excuse me. Let's go to agenda item number 16 then, which is an action item. Consideration and possible action by the board to approve the reimbursement resolution tied to the public property finance contract between BBVA USA and West ISD for grades 6 through 12 Chromebooks. The reimbursement resolution allows the district to reimburse itself with proceeds of public property finance contract for any out-of-pocket expenditures for the project incurred not more than 60 days prior to the date the resolution is adopted. This is closely tied with what we just discussed.
Yep,
So
no action.
We'll just no action on 16. All right. Agenda item number 17 is an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to approve the West ISD Board President, Dr. Larry Sparks, and one additional board member as required members of the Senate Bill 11 Texas School Safety Center, TXSSC, Emergency Operations Procedures, EOP, Safety and Security Audit Committee. Mr. Truitt will present that to us.
As stated, we have two required positions on the Safety Center Emergency Operations Committee. Dr. Sparks has to serve on it as board president. We need one additional board member to volunteer to serve on this committee as well. Again, I'm asking for help with this one, and I asked Ms. Propka to come tonight so you can all understand the commitment piece of this role, and even she's going to share a little bit about the upcoming audit deadlines. So if you'll come on over, Ms. Propka, so we can hear what it entails, and maybe we'll have someone sign up.
Hello, can y'all hear me? So the safety and security team goes over with us. We already have emergency operation plans in place, but the emergency operations, the safety and security team would go over those plans with us and help us develop based on the audit that we will do coming up here. Based on the audit and the audit findings, how to implement and develop the plans to reflect what the audit shows. So if there are things that we need to up the safety in or revamp, then the safety team would actually come together and meet for that. Other things that are coming up with the audit is that we will start the end of September auditing the campuses where we're looking for those items that cause a safety hazard, look and see from the previous audit if those things were corrected, fixed to the recommendations of the committee. The audit is actually due October 31st on a Saturday, kind of a crazy day to turn it in on Halloween, but that's when it's due. And then we have to actually have all of the data. It's due to be done by October 31st, but we have to present the data to the Texas School Safety Center by November 15th. So we have a team for the audit, and then we have the committee itself. So there's several members of that team, including some parent volunteers and some from our emergency management services within the city. So, and of course, Mr. Truitt has to serve on it too, and myself as the emergency operations coordinator for the district. Anyway, have any questions for me?
Thank you, Jan. The floor is open for a motion to address this action item as presented by Ms. Protka. Is there a motion? Lee Crawshaw has made the motion. Chase, I saw your finger go up, so you seconded it. Did you? Oh, okay. All right. All those in favor, please show of hands.
Wait, hold on, we've got to elect somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you're correct.
fine.
That would be.
I was like, I missed it. Yeah, Larry, you have to, and we need one of the other 6 to volunteer to assist Ms. Proctor with this committee. And me. Sounds like I'm on it too. Great. Wow, Lee's going for board member of the year. It really does. She's passionate about this. All right. So now you're approving yourself and Ms. Crawshaw.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion? Okay, Holly's made the motion. Is there a second? Kenny seconds. All those in favor? Show of hands. 7-0. Lee and I are voting for ourselves. Okay, great. It is now 7:56. At this time, we will adjourn to closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 551, 071, 129, 074, and 072. Thank you. reconvene from closed executive session to discuss items discussed in executive session. Mr. Truitt.
Thank you, Dr. Sparks. We're on 19A, consideration possible action by the board to approve the personnel report. We do not have any new hires, resignations, or what would the third one be? Retirements. I had to think about it. So tonight there's no action on the personnel report.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's silence, yes. All right, let's move on to 20, my closing remarks. If everyone will look at the district calendar reminders in the back last page of your packet, which I hope gave you a workout. It was a hefty one. You can do some curls with it. On the dates to remember, I just wanted to point out a couple of important things. This Friday night is senior night. We decided to move it up just in case for some reason we didn't get to finish the football season. At least we went ahead and honored the seniors. If we do have the full season, which is what we're all hoping and working towards, we'd still do the senior walk at that last game. If you can make it, we're going to honor the football team cheerleaders and Tank the Trojan at 7. And halftime, we'll do the marching band and Dazzlers. The band will perform at this game, and Rogers is even bringing their band if you want to make it. We still have tickets, by the way, if you need some. Wanted to point out some homecoming news, and so I'll kill two birds with one stone because it's the third item under closing remarks. You can see that on the second, again, we play Life Oak Cliff, 7:30. We are going to do the homecoming court. The students are working on the nominations and the voting. So we are planning to use social distancing and space them out with their families, their mom or dad, whoever's escorting them. And so we will do the crowning that night. We will have still performances by the Dazzlers, and the Pride of West Marching Band will just be post-game. The cheerleaders have asked to do a pre-game performance that we're going to do as well. Now the bad news is no homecoming pep rally or bonfire. And there was even discussion about a possible parade like we did with the seniors last May, and that's a no as well. And so right now we're doing our best just to have the game and the festivities at the game. I do want to caution you about our ability to even host reunions. As they've called, I've recommended they just wait a year. If they want to use this facility for something fun, we're going to allow that. But I can't promise them blocks of tickets for the game because we can only do the 1,000, and we've committed to our students and their families to watch them do their thing. And unless the class can get the tickets on their own, just decide to meet together, there's no way I can do that this year. So we're doing what we can. And so that's our homecoming news. I'm just glad we're ready to go with the court and all that. If for some reason we can't play the game, we've even decided we'll do the virtual court and go to their homes and honor them. It will happen this year, so we've got some options there. Just a reminder, the October board meeting is on Wednesday the 14th, and that leads me to my last thing for you guys is just a reminder, if you're still working on the hours, even though they were waived, and still took Sandra and me up on the what is it called, the Texas EdCon, here at the end of the month to do part of the virtual trainings to get some hours. I'm going to do it. I think some of you are as well. I know Sandra's getting you that information. Of course, Ms. Crawshaw has to do it. She's our delegate. I noticed the binder came. Did you get it? Oh, you did. Great. Oh, my bad. Well, good for you. When it happens. She's our delegate that she has to attend and vote on TASB related the 30th through the 2nd. Same thing, virtual can get you your hours. Yeah.
Will we just log in? They'll have the information on how to log in and stuff, and we can just do it at home.
Yes. Yes. Or we can even provide you space here if you want to, but from home is what I was envisioning. How How many of you are going to do it that weekend? Yeah, me too. Okay, so all of us. Maybe all of us. Someone needs loan training over here. Let's keep moving. If we had Chromebooks, we could get on Chromebooks. Oh, sometimes my jokes just aren't funny. All right, so Dr. Sparks, that's it for closing remarks. Obviously, Sandra will get with you guys, make sure you got everything ready for the 30th.
All right, very good. Do we have any other closing comments from anyone? If not, the floor is open for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Jason's made the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Mike, okay. All those in favor, please show of hands. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all for coming and being here. Thank you for your